Rain hit the kitchen window on a Wednesday morning while I was making breakfast. My wife, Emily, grabbed her cell phone with that dramatic flair she always had. I could hear her Aunt Carol through the speaker from across the room. Emily's grandmother, Margaret, had passed away. She left Emily everything. The entire estate. It was a serious amount of money. Life-changing money. At first I felt honest happiness for her. Losing family is never easy. Knowing her grandmother wanted to secure her future felt meaningful. I walked over, squeezed her shoulder, and figured we would face it together like a married team. But when she ended the call, something changed in her face. It was not sorrow. It was not gratitude. It was something colder. "Can you believe it?" she asked. Her voice did not sound excited. It sounded careful. It sounded like measuring. For years she had told me to be practical and keep my feet on the ground. Now I wondered if she had known about this possibility all along. I nodded and tried to understand her mood. I said, "It is incredible, honey. She must have loved you very much to leave you everything." Emily looked at me in a way I had never seen before. It felt like she was not seeing her husband anymore. I felt like I had become a problem to solve. Maybe even a burden. "You know what this means, right?" she said. She walked to the window and stared at the rain. "I do not have to worry about anything anymore. No more budgeting. No more compromising on things I want." The word compromising hit me hard. We were not rich, but we were fine. I worked decent hours. My job paid the bills, covered our mortgage, and kept food on the table. We took vacations. We went out to dinner. We lived a normal middle-class life. What compromises did she mean? Over the next few days, the phone rang with lawyers and financial advisors. I tried to be supportive. I offered to help with the paperwork. She waved me off. "I can handle this myself." "It is not complicated," she said. Fair enough. It was her inheritance. Her family's money. I respected that. Then small comments started slipping out. She would look around our living room and say, "This furniture is so basic." She would flip through our streaming services and sigh. We could afford so much better now. Now, like our old life was a sentence and release day had finally come. About 2 weeks later, we had dinner with another couple, our friends Jason and Laura. Of course, the talk drifted to the inheritance. News like that travels fast. Laura said it must be a huge relief for both of us. That real financial security is a gift. Emily smiled, but it was not warm. "Oh, it definitely changes your perspective on things. On people," she said, looking right at me. "What do you mean?" Laura asked. She had felt the same tension I felt. Emily set down her wine glass very carefully. "When you do not have to depend on someone else's income anymore, you start to see relationships more clearly. You can sort out what was necessity and what was actually a choice." My stomach dropped. The table went quiet. "Necessity?" I asked. I kept my voice steady, even though my chest was burning. Emily shrugged like we were talking about the weather. "Let us be honest. How many decisions in our marriage were made because we had to consider your salary, where we lived, what we could afford, how we spent our weekends? Now I can make choices based on what I want, not on what we can manage on your paycheck." Jason and Laura traded a fast look. I excused myself to the bathroom so I would not say something ugly in public. When I came back, the conversation had moved to safe topics. It did not matter. The damage was done. Emily had told our friends, and me, that our marriage was an economic setup on her side. The drive home was silent. That night, I stared at the ceiling and tried to sort it out. This was the same woman who used to thank me for taking extra shifts when she wanted something special. The same person who said she felt safe and loved because I took care of our home. Now, I was hearing that all of that had been necessity. I thought about our early years. How proud she was when I got promoted. How she told her friends that I had a strong work ethic. How she said she felt lucky to have a husband who was responsible and dependable. I kept hearing that one word. Necessity. 3 weeks later, the inheritance money hit her account. That same day she went shopping. Not for groceries. Not for anything practical. She walked in with bags from stores I had never seen her step into before. Designer clothes with price tags that made my eyes sting. "Do not look at me like that," she said when she saw my face. "I can afford this now." "I am not looking at you like anything," I said. "I am just wondering about the sudden shopping spree." She laughed, but it was not her usual laugh. It was sharp and a little mean. "I have wanted these things for years. I could not justify spending your money on them." "Your money. Not our money. Not family money. My money." That night she tried on outfits like we were teenagers again. She turned this way and that, posing in the mirror. But the look in her eyes told the truth. She was not showing off for me. She was showing off in spite of me. Like she needed to prove what she could do now that she was free from the limits of my modest income. "What do you think?" she asked, spinning in a dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. "You look beautiful," I said because she did. "But you always look beautiful." Her smile slipped a notch. "That is not what I meant." I knew exactly what she meant. She wanted me to say it out loud. She wanted me to acknowledge her financial independence. She wanted me to accept that she did not need me anymore. She wanted me to understand that the power in our marriage had shifted. And I did understand. Completely. The question was what I would do with that understanding. The change moved faster than I thought possible. Within a month of the money arriving, my wife turned into someone I almost did not recognize. She traded her dependable Honda for a brand new BMW. Not a sensible sedan, but a convertible sports car that cost more than many people earn in a year. When I asked whether she had considered the insurance bill, she laughed. "Insurance costs?" she repeated, like I had asked the price of air. That is the kind of thinking I do not have to do anymore. Next came the house. She hired interior designers. Custom furniture arrived in trucks. Artworks showed up with certificates of authenticity. I would come home from work and find strangers shifting our whole life around while Emily stood there with a glass of wine, directing traffic. "Do you not love it?" she asked, gesturing at an abstract painting that looked like someone had sneezed on a canvas. "It is so much more sophisticated than what we had before." What we had before was furniture we picked out together, photos from our trips, shelves with books we both read. In short, our life. Now the rooms looked like a magazine for people with more money than personality. The spending was not even the worst part. The way she started treating me was worse. She got into hosting big, polished dinner parties. She invited people we barely knew, people from the right circles. I would come home to caterers in our kitchen, and my wife dressed like she was heading to a gala. "Oh, there you are," she would say when I walked in, like I was interrupting, not returning to my own house. "You may want to shower and change. People will be here soon." People, not friends. Not our friends. People who mattered now that she had money. At these parties, she introduced me in a way that made my skin crawl. "This is my husband. He works in what do you call it again? Systems management." She said it like my job was a quaint hobby she could not quite place. One evening, a man in an expensive suit asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, Emily jumped in. "Oh, he has one of those steady, reliable jobs. Very practical," she said. Practical, the way some people might say contagious. The man nodded, then turned the talk back to her new art collection. I excused myself early that night, said I had work in the morning. Emily did not even look up from a conversation about gallery openings and charity auctions. This became the routine. She planned social events without asking me. When I did not play along with small talk about yacht clubs and wine tastings, she acted like I was the issue. "You are being antisocial," she told me after one stiff evening. "These people could be good connections for us." "Connections for what?" I asked. "I have a job. We have friends. What exactly do we need connections for?" She stared at me like I had asked why we needed indoor plumbing. "You really do not get it, do you? This is our chance to move up in the world. To be around successful people instead of," she waved a hand toward the neighborhood where our old friends lived. "Instead of what?" I asked. "Instead of settling for mediocre." Mediocre. That was what our life had been to her. The final straw came on a Saturday morning in late November. I was making coffee and hoping for a quiet weekend. She walked into the kitchen already dressed like she had an important appointment. "I am having lunch with some women from the country club," she said, checking her reflection in her phone screen. "They are discussing charity board positions." "That sounds nice," I said, while wondering when she had joined a country club. "Yes. Well, they're the kind of people who can open doors. Real doors, not the..." She stopped and looked at me, standing there in my weekend clothes with a mug in my hand. Not the kind of life where Saturday morning coffee at home is the highlight of someone's week. I set my mug down slowly. "What is wrong with Saturday morning coffee at home?" She sighed, long and dramatic, like I was being difficult on purpose. "Nothing is wrong with it. If you are content with small things. If you do not want more." "I thought you were happy," I said quietly. "I thought I was too," she said. "But that was before I understood what happiness really looks like." She grabbed her purse, checked her reflection one more time, then paused in the doorway. "Do you know what I realized yesterday? I have spent years making decisions based on what we could afford together. where we could go on vacation, what kind of car we could manage, whether we could pay for dinner on a weeknight. I compromised constantly. We both compromised. That is what married people do, I said. She shook her head. No, I compromised. You just lived within your means. There is a difference. After she left, I sat in our kitchen, her kitchen, apparently, and tried to understand how we had gotten here. This was the same woman who used to surprise me with homemade dinners for no reason. The same person who said her favorite times were quiet Sunday mornings when we did not have anywhere to be. Now those moments were proof, to her, of a small, average life she had outgrown. The conversation I had been dreading landed the following Tuesday. She was waiting when I came home from work, seated in the living room with a glass of wine and a manila folder on the coffee table. We need to talk, she said. I knew what was inside the folder before she opened it. I have been thinking a lot about us, she said, voice steady and businesslike. About what we both want from life. I think we want very different things now. I did not sit down. I stood there and waited for the words that were coming. I think we should get a divorce. The words just hung there. I was not surprised exactly, but hearing them out loud still felt like a punch to the gut. I see, I said after a moment. She looked taken aback by how calm I was. Maybe she expected me to argue. Maybe she wanted me to beg, to promise I would change or chase whatever she thought she needed. I have already spoken to a lawyer, she said, opening the folder and sliding out official documents. I want this to be fair and clean. No drama. Fair. As if there were a fair way to end a marriage because one person decided the other was no longer good enough. The papers are all there, she said, pushing the folder toward me. My lawyer said you should get your own attorney to review everything. But honestly, it is straightforward. I lifted the folder and skimmed the pages. Dissolution of marriage. Division of assets. Clean. Precise. I am keeping the house, she said matter of fact. And my inheritance is separate property, so it is not part of the settlement. But you will get your fair share of everything else. Your fair share. Like she was doing me a kindness. I looked at the signature lines on the last page. Her signature was already there. Bold. Certain. Any questions? She asked. I had 1,000 questions. I wanted to know when, exactly, I had become dead weight. I wanted to know if any of our marriage had felt real to her, or if it had all been an economic arrangement. I wanted to know if she had loved me, or if she had loved the security I brought. Instead, I picked up the pen on the table. No questions, I said. I signed without reading closely. I signed without calling a lawyer. I signed without negotiating, without arguing, without trying to change her mind. Her eyes widened a bit when I finished. My calm threw her off. That is it, she asked. That is it, I said, sliding the folder back. I walked to the front door, grabbed my jacket, and headed for my car. Where are you going? She called from the living room. Out, I said, and I did not look back. As I drove away, I saw her in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway of our house, watching me leave. She looked confused, like she had expected some other ending. But what did she want? Tears? Begging? Promises to become the kind of man her new money required? I was done being someone's necessity. I was done being someone's disappointment. I did not go back that night, or the next, or the one after that. I checked into a decent hotel downtown and started making calls. Not to lawyers, not to friends or family who might talk me out of what I was planning. I called a company that handles corporate relocations. How quickly can you arrange a transfer to a different state? I asked the representative. It depends on the company and the role, she said. What is your timeline? 2 weeks. She paused. That is ambitious, she said, but not impossible. What field are you in? Systems management, I said. I keep the information technology lights on so other people can do their jobs. Within 3 days, I had interviews lined up in Minneapolis, Denver, and Phoenix. Within a week, the Minneapolis company made an offer that was 15% higher than my old salary. They needed someone to start right away, and they would pay to move me. That sounded perfect. I went back to the house exactly once, on a Thursday afternoon, when I knew my soon-to-be ex-wife would be at her weekly spa appointment. The place already felt different. New artwork. Furniture shifted around. Fresh flowers stuck in expensive vases. She was sanding the fingerprints off our life and replacing them with her version of sophistication. I packed like a man on a mission. Clothes. Personal documents. A few books that actually meant something to me. I left behind anything we had bought together, Anything that tied me to the idea that I was building a life with someone who valued me. The wedding photos stayed on the mantle. The couches and tables stayed right where they were. Even my tools in the garage stayed put. I did not want a single thing from that life except my freedom. I left no note, no forwarding address, no explanation. I did set my wedding ring on the kitchen counter, right next to her coffee maker, where she would be sure to see it. The move to Minneapolis happened faster than I thought possible. The relocation company handled the logistics like a pit crew. Within 2 weeks of signing those divorce papers, I was standing in an empty townhouse 1,500 miles away, watching the moving truck disappear down the street. My new life started at once. No transition, no looking back, no second guessing. I threw myself into work, learned my coworkers' names, found a decent gym, and figured out which coffee shop made the best breakfast sandwiches. I changed my phone number the day I arrived. New state, new number, new service provider. I shut down my old social media accounts and opened new ones under a slightly different name. I was not hiding, not exactly, but I was not leaving a trail either. Meanwhile, a mutual friend, Ben, called my old number, heard it was disconnected, and tracked down my work line. "She is throwing a party this weekend," he said. "She is calling it a new chapter party. Looks like she is inviting everyone." "A party?" I asked. "To celebrate getting rid of me? Are you all right?" "It is strange. Nobody understands what happened." "I am fine," I said. "Better than fine." And I was. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. From what I heard later, the party was exactly what you would expect from a person with too much money and not enough grace. Catered food. Open bar. A professional disc jockey. She told anyone who would listen that she was finally free to live the life she always wanted. According to another friend, Lisa, who went and called me afterward, Emily kept checking her phone and glancing toward the door every time someone walked in. She made comments about how some people cannot handle change and how some people prefer to sulk rather than face reality. She was waiting for me to show up and make a scene. She wanted me to beg her to reconsider, to prove that I could not function without her. Instead, I was 2 states away, building a bookshelf in my new place and looking up good hiking trails. The calls to my old number started that Sunday. Ben told me she spent the whole day trying to reach me. She called again and again. The voicemails began with anger and drifted into confusion. "Where the hell are you?" was how the first message started. By the 10th message, she was asking friends if anyone had heard from me. By the 20th, she was driving around to places she thought I might be, my old gym, the coffee shop we used to visit, even my former office, where she learned I had already given notice and cleared out my desk. It took her 3 days to understand I was actually gone. Not staying with a buddy. Not holed up at a hotel to make a point. Gone. 2 weeks later, she hired a private investigator. Yes, she truly did that. The investigator told her I had covered my tracks well. New job, new address, new phone number, new everything. A professional-level disappearing act, he said. That came later. In the first few months, I was busy building something real. I joined a local hiking group and spent weekends exploring trails around the Twin Cities. I signed up for a cooking class and learned how to make dinners that did not come from a box or a delivery bag. I started reading again, the way I used to, before I slowly stopped during those last years of marriage. I bought furniture I actually liked. Comfortable chairs, a solid mattress, and a simple kitchen table where I could eat breakfast and look out at the trees in my small backyard. Most important of all, I stopped looking over my shoulder. I stopped wondering what she was doing or saying or plotting. I stopped caring whether she missed me or regretted anything. I learned later that Emily figured I would crawl back within a month. She told people I was being dramatic and that once living alone set in, I would realize I could not make it without her. She even kept the house exactly as it was for the first 6 months after I left, convinced I would show up and apologize for whatever tantrum she thought I was throwing. But I was not throwing a tantrum. I was not making a statement or trying to teach her a lesson. I was finished. Finished being somebody's backup plan. Finished being the practical choice someone settled for. Finished being part of a life another person called mediocre. By my first winter in Minneapolis, I had built routines that had nothing to do with my old life. I made new friends who knew me as I am now, not as one half of a couple that came apart. I learned to enjoy quiet Saturday mornings again. By choice this time, not because I supposedly could not afford anything better. I was building a life that belonged to me alone. For the first time I could remember, that was enough. 3 years into my new life, I got an unexpected call from our old neighbor back home. We had been friendly but not close, so hearing his voice surprised me. "I hope you do not mind me calling," he said after we swapped a few basics. "I got your number from your old company's directory. I wanted to ask you something, but I was not sure it was appropriate." "What is going on?" I asked, honestly curious. "It is about your ex-wife," he said carefully. "I do not know if you keep in touch or if you even want to know, but things have gotten pretty rough for her lately." I did not know how to answer. Part of me was curious. A bigger part of me had worked hard not to care about her life at all. "How rough?" I heard myself ask. "She lost the house last month. Foreclosure. I think she moved back in with her parents for now." That caught me off guard. The house had been paid off when we divorced. How do you lose a house with no mortgage? "She took out a loan against it about 18 months ago," he said, reading my silence. "A big one. Then she could not make the payments." Over the next 20 minutes, he filled me in on the life I left behind. The picture he painted was shocking and, if I am honest, predictable. The spending kept going after I left, and it went into overdrive. Designer clothes became designer everything. The BMW became a Mercedes, then a Porsche. She took trips to Europe, bought jewelry that cost more than most people's cars, and renovated the house twice in 2 years. She threw parties every few weeks, big, catered events with decorations, and the whole works. He thought she was trying to force her way into a certain social circle, and it was costing her a fortune. When the inheritance money started running low, she borrowed against the house. She probably thought it was a temporary bridge to her next move. But the payments were heavy, and she did not have steady income. Why work when you believe your money will never run out? She tried to get a job about 6 months ago, he went on. But she had been out of the workforce for a long time and wanted an executive role without recent experience. When that did not happen, she tried some kind of consulting business, but it never really started. The math was simple and unforgiving. Even a large inheritance has limits if you spend like it is unlimited and never refill the pot. When she finally sold the house, it did not cover what she owed. Between the loan and the credit cards, she maxed out on renovations and redecorating. She walked away with nothing. Nothing. The woman who called our comfortable middle-class life mediocre was starting over with less than we had when we got married. "I probably should not be telling you this," the neighbor said. "But she has been asking around about you, where you went, whether anyone has your contact info. I think reality is hitting pretty hard." After we hung up, I sat in my Minneapolis kitchen and let it sink in. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not pity. Not vindication. Just nothing. I had built a good life here. I had been promoted twice and was earning more than I ever expected. I bought a small cabin about an hour north of the city. I spent weekends hiking, reading, and enjoying the kind of quiet she once labeled mediocre. I had started dating again. Nothing serious, but I met women who appreciated the life I actually live, instead of treating it like something to fix or escape. The call reminded me of something I had almost forgotten. How much energy I used to spend trying to be enough for someone who never believed I was. 2 months later, the phone rang again. About 6 months later, an old friend from college called me. "Man, this is going to sound strange," he said, "but I think your ex-wife reached out to me on Facebook. She sent a message asking if I knew how to get in touch with you. Said it was important." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "Nothing." I did not answer, but the message was intense. She said she needed to talk to you about something urgent. She said she made mistakes and wanted to make things right. Very dramatic. He added that she mentioned my old phone number being disconnected. Feels like she has been trying for a while. That night, I thought about the woman I married and the woman who handed me divorce papers because I was not polished enough for her new world. I wondered which version was real, or if both were. But wondering did not change a thing. I had made my choice when I signed those papers and disappeared. I chose to start over instead of fighting for someone who had already decided I was not worth the fight. Half a year after that, the outreach picked up. Friends started calling with the same basic report. Emily was actively searching for me. She was pinging mutual acquaintances, even people she hardly knew, if she thought there might be a path back to me. "She seems desperate," one friend said. "Not only for money. Emotionally, too. Like she finally understands what she gave up." What she gave up? Interesting way to frame it. From what I gathered, she spent nearly 2 years trying to hold on to the life she believed she deserved, burning through cash and burning through relationships. The country club crowd faded when the money dried up. That clever, cultured circle drifted to the next person with deeper pockets. She ended up alone, broke, and starting to learn that financial security and human connection are not the same thing. But that was her lesson to learn, not mine to teach. I had already learned mine. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from someone who does not value what you bring. I learned it well enough that even hearing about her panic did not make me want to swoop in and save her from choices she made with open eyes. Some people search for years to find themselves. I found myself by letting go of someone who never really wanted to find me. 5 years after I signed the divorce papers, I was living a life I had never pictured. My townhouse was paid off early. I had been promoted to senior management. I was in a steady relationship with a woman who loved quiet Saturday mornings as much as I did. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my work phone rang. "Is this you?" a voice asked. "I mean, are you the one who used to live in Ohio?" The caller was a private investigator named Rodriguez. Professional. Direct. No small talk. "Depends who is asking," I said. "Your ex-wife hired me to find you. She has been trying to locate you for about 2 years. Says she has something important to discuss." 2 years. She had been actively searching for 2 years. "She asked me to tell you she found 300 missed calls on your old phone number," Rodriguez said. The phone company kept records even after the line was cut off. She has been calling that number for 5 years. 300 calls. Over 5 years. More than one call a week to a deadline. "She wants to meet," he said. "She will travel to you. Money is not an issue for the trip, though, from what I can see, money is an issue for everything else." "What do you mean?" I asked. "She is broke," he said, blunt as a hammer. "Living with her parents. Working retail at a department store. A cousin is paying my fee because she cannot. She went from wealthy to empty fast. Now she wants to talk." "Now she wants to talk," I repeated. She gave me a long speech about mistakes and regrets and how she learned what really matters, he said. Standard words. But she sounded sincere. I told Rodriguez I would think about it and call him back. I did not need to think. I had closed that book 5 years earlier. Whatever she needed to say, whatever closure she wanted, that was not my job to deliver. I called him that evening. "I am not interested in meeting," I said. "She figured you might say that," he replied. "She asked me to tell you she understands if you will not see her. But she is coming to Minneapolis this weekend anyway. Says she will wait at that coffee shop on Grand Avenue that you used to visit." He paused, then added, "She seems to know a lot about your routines. A lot about my current routines." That rattled me. "How much does she know about my life here?" I asked. "Enough to be concerning," Rodriguez said. "She knows where you work, where you live, what gym you use. She was researching you for months before she hired me. I just made it official." Great. My ex-wife had been tracking me from 1,500 miles away. "Look," Rodriguez went on, "I have done this for 15 years. I can usually tell when someone is truly remorseful versus just desperate. She is both. But the remorse feels real. She is not asking for money. She is not pushing to get back together. She says she wants to apologize and explain herself. If you do not show, she goes home and you will never hear from her again. That is what she promised." Friday afternoon, I walked past that coffee shop on Grand Avenue. Not to meet her. Curiosity, that was all. After 5 years of silence, I wanted to see what desperation looked like on someone who once had everything. She was there at a corner table. She looked nothing like the polished woman who tossed me aside for not being refined enough. She looked tired. Older. Her clothes were clean, but clearly inexpensive. Her hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail, not the styled look she wore during the wealthy phase. She kept checking her phone and glancing at the door every few seconds. I watched from across the street for about 10 minutes. Part of me felt sorry for her. A larger part remembered how it felt to be called mediocre by someone who had vowed to love me. I did not go in. I went home to my girlfriend, who was making dinner and wanted to hear about my day. Seeing Emily there, waiting for a conversation I did not plan to have, told me everything I needed to know about the last 5 years for her. It told me even more about how well those years treated me. Saturday morning came with an unexpected knock. I was making coffee, enjoying my quiet start, when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw her. Up close, she looked worse than she had across the street. No confidence, no edge, only a kind of worn-out urgency. I opened the door, but did not invite her in. "Hi," she said softly. I know you did not want to meet, but I had to try one more time. How did you get my address? I asked. The investigator, she said. I am sorry for showing up. I have been trying to reach you for 5 years. 5 years of thinking about what I did, what I said, how badly I wrecked everything. She glanced past me into the house, taking in the life I built without her. You look good, she said. Happy. I am glad. I said nothing. I waited. I know you do not owe me anything, she said, her voice starting to tremble. I know I have no right to be here, but I need you to know that I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry for how I treated you, for what I said, for throwing away the best thing I ever had because I was too foolish to see it. Okay, I said. She seemed surprised by how calm I was. Maybe she expected anger. Maybe she expected a scene. I lost everything, she said. The money, the house, the friends who only liked what I could spend on them. I am working retail. I am living with my parents. Every day I think about how different things could have been if I had not been so selfish and blind. I am sorry that happened, I said, and I meant it. But I am not sure what you want me to say. I want you to know that I love you, she blurted, the words rushing out. I never stopped. I got swept up in the money and the lifestyle and the idea that I deserved something better when what I had was already right. This was the moment she had been building toward, the confession, the plea for forgiveness, the open door back to us. I appreciate you telling me, I said. It does not change anything. Her face folded in on itself. Please, I know I do not deserve it, but can we try again? Can we start over? I am different now. I understand what matters. You are different because you have to be, I said. Because the money ended and the lifestyle could not last. That is not the same as changing. That is not fair, she said. I have learned from my mistakes. I have grown. Maybe you have, I said. I have grown too. And the man I am now does not have room for someone who treated me the way you did. She started to cry then. Not the loud, performative kind. Quiet, tired sobs. The sound a person makes when there are no more tricks left. I know I hurt you, she whispered. I know I said terrible things and made you feel like you were not enough. But you were enough. You were everything. And I threw it all away for nothing, she said. You threw it away because, at the time, you truly believed I was not enough, I said. It was not a heat-of-the-moment slip. It was a choice, calculated, based on what you thought your life should look like. She looked up at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. So there is nothing I can say? Nothing I can do? There is nothing to do, I answered, keeping my voice even. What we had is finished. I am not angry with you anymore, but I am not available for a second chance. Are you seeing someone? She asked. Yes, I said. Someone who values the kind of life we are building together, instead of treating it like something to upgrade. Right then a car door closed in the driveway, my girlfriend back from her morning run. I need you to leave now, I said, firmer this time. And I need you not to come back. What we had ended 5 years ago. You need to accept that and find a way forward with your own life. She nodded through the tears, finally understanding this truly was the end. I hope you can forgive me someday, she said, stepping off the porch toward her rental car. I already have, I replied. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. She drove away as my girlfriend jogged up the driveway, cheeks flushed from the cold. Who was that? She asked, catching her breath. Nobody important, I said. And I realized, as the words left my mouth, that it was completely true. The woman who once sat at the center of my world had become exactly what she once decided I was, irrelevant to the life that actually matters. The difference is, I built a life that matters. And she is still looking for someone else to build one for her.